When I was younger, I absolutely loved classic dice games like Yahtzee and Boggle. However, dice games weren't always really my flavor. There was something about the randomness of rolling some dice and not getting what you want. They often led to some really frustrating games, and they never were really quite my flavor. That is until I met King of Tokyo. Then I met King of New York. And then King of Tokyo Dark Edition. Wait, does this mean that this game is part of a trilogy? King of Tokyo was one of those first board games that I ever added to my board game collection. It left me starry-eyed as I journeyed my way through modern board gaming. It had some pretty cool kaiju, sick Japanese art and theme, and some pretty sick, thick, chunky dice that you could throw at a brick wall and they'd still be okay. It immediately transported me to another place and sometimes showed me that being bad in a board game can be good. So it's okay to go on a rampage every now and then. And over 10 years later, that strong board game nostalgia still hits me hard. So get ready for the next iteration from the King of series, as today we're going to be reviewing King of Monster Island, a brutal beast of a board game. Dude, what happened to you? Are you okay? Oh, I just got beaten. By who? So you finally booked that long-awaited holiday trip to a relaxing destination filled with tranquil turquoise water, golden sandy beaches, and an exploding dice volcano? Hold the phone. King of Monster Island is a fully cooperative game experience where you take on the role of being a monster, battling a titan who threatens to open an interdimensional portal and put the entire Earth at risk. It sounds like the opening scene to a blockbuster movie, doesn't it? The only thing we will be busting out here are these awesome monster dice and powerful cards. Across each game, players will be working together to take down one big boss. Each boss has a certain level of health that must be squashed in order to be defeated. Each boss comes with a unique card that features fame icons, which outlines different special abilities that it gains as its fame increases in the game. Beware, dear citizens, however, these abilities are cumulative, meaning that the boss's power will grow exponentially over the game. The boss wins the game if a single monster ever has 0 health. There are no minions left in the drawbag, or 3 crystal pylons are built. If you've ever seen any Power Rangers episode or even Big Hero 6, you'll know it'll take a team effort to strategize, beat the minions, and topple the Titan. Each turn, the boss monster is going to take a series of powerful actions, followed by a single player's turn. The boss monster is going to be activating its special power. It's going to roll any available powerful red dice into the volcano that kind of looks like it eats dice for a living. It will also move into a space with lots of red juicy dice and minions to help protect itself. The boss will also activate the minions in its zone, and finally the power of those red boss dice in that zone will also trigger. The minions in this game aren't those cute yellow overall wearing animated creatures, but here they are spiteful, piercing, and often quite a nuisance. There are minions that grow crystal shards, ones that blast all monsters anywhere on the island, and even ones that hold these cute little cocktail umbrellas. Well, actually, they shield all the other minions. Hey Danny, what are you doing? I'm just eyeing out the competition. During the monster phase, everything starts looking a whole lot more green. Roll these 6 green dice. Reroll any number up to 3 times and resolve the actions shown on the dice. It's so easy. Or is it? Here, love is in the air as hearts restore yours or a fellow monster's health. Green energy allows you to buy power cards that help to give you bonus abilities. A footprint allows you to move to the next zone or even deal 1 damage in your current area. Imagine finding this tiny footprint. You'd think these monsters were miniature size. The large paw print deals 2 damage to creatures in a zone. A collection of 3 to 4 support dice allows you to place ship tiles that can be used to gain extra energy or dice results. Talking about throwing a spanner into the works though, the fame allows you to garner the support of allies as well as removing red boss dice on the zone in your board. Allies are a huge part of your alliance. Each ally team has a card associated with it that allows you to acquire as soon as you gain your first fame point. Each team of allies has abilities that accumulates as your fame grows. It's like a political race. Each ally group has specific playstyles. Some focus on reducing the power of your minions, some improve your ability to recover, whilst others are good at managing support. It's all a very much Avengers Infinity style affair, with everybody under the sun chipping in with their superpowers. Play your cards right, and with the luck of the dice roll, beating this island of doom might just be a walk in the park. King of Monster Island reminds me of another board game called The Loop, which has players moving through different time eras trying to chase Dr. Foe's clone, and there's this really cool time machine device that rotates around and spits out little red cubes, which causes vortexes in different time periods. In The Loop, players have these unique cards that they can kind of acquire and build a deck around throughout the game. Whereas in the King of Monster Island, players can choose allies that they can upgrade by increasing the number of victory point stars that they've got to then unlock further abilities. Have you finished your turn yet? You're taking a long time. But I thought this was a cooperative game. You know, you can help, right? The original game of King of Tokyo was highly competitive, and in fact it was probably its primary draw card for getting people to the table. The idea that you could all kind of beat one player and that player would decide to stay in Tokyo or leave Tokyo so another player could go in, and the player on the inside did damage to all the players on the outside, was just a fascinating group mechanic. It almost had this party game-like feel to it. The King of Monster Island really sets itself apart. In fact, I like to describe it as a side step or a side kaiju stomp. Because the cooperative nature actually really works in this game. You are actually functioning as a group of monsters who are trying to battle against the system that the game is throwing at you. Strategically making decisions about where you are placed on the board and the dice results that you roll. You're also cooperating to try and clear minions and those red dice before the boss monster can get into those particular zones and activate them. I really love that sense of, look, I can do this in my region of the board so that in the future we can alleviate that threat from becoming a worse threat down the track, whilst on your turn, if you can really handle the boss and try and pull a few punches on your in your round, then that will really help us as a group collective. So the original game, health was a major factor. When you played King of Tokyo at 6 players, often or not, 1 or 2 players would get knocked out early in the game, and then you'd just be sitting there looking at other players playing for the next 30 minutes, which isn't quite enjoyable. King of Monster Island avoids that situation entirely. If one player loses, then the game is over. You can just restart that particular game again. What I really like about the dice mechanism in this game is how they've retained that reroll mechanic from the original game. The idea that if you roll poorly on your first go, you can pick any number of dice up and re-roll them up to 3 times. You can try and aim to get particular symbols. I love the dice locking mechanism. The idea that you can think, well, I've got 1 support die left over from my rolls, rather than just let it go to waste, I might leave it in this zone. So then when another player comes into that zone, they can pick up that die and use it to, you know, pay for a support unit that will help you, give you extra die bonuses and energy bonuses. There's a great sense of negotiation that happens around the choices that you make so that no die that you roll is ever wasted. The power cards in this game provide for some game-changing combos. Yes, you might roll a couple of energy faces and go, ooh, what can I do with this energy on this turn? But you know what? If you save the energy up, you're actually going to be rewarded. When I first played King of Tokyo, my first 5 games, I actually ignored the energy cubes in the base game and ignored all the power cards, and it wasn't until I played the game at a little mini convention in the Blue Mountains with my group of Magic the Gathering friends, and on that game they started buying all these power cards. That was when I truly saw how the synergy of the cards not only interact with each other but against each other, and it created and facilitated some really cool player-to-player dynamics. So as a family weight game, how does this game fare on the spectrum of modern board games? Well, this game does have a light to medium rule set. So if you've got one player who's experienced in playing lots of modern board games or is quick at learning rules, then that one player can easily facilitate the game. They can kind of do the upkeeping for the boss monster turn, whilst the other players can just concentrate on what they're doing. So however, if you're playing all as new players, I can imagine the game feeling a little bit like accounting on your first play, as you've got to keep checking what does the boss do first, what do they do next. If you're not familiar with board gaming terminology and how these cooperative games work, there could be a little bit of a hurdle to get over. So I deal 2 damage, remove this red boss die, and gain 2 stars. Upgrade! Yes! We're moving up in life.
Well, I'm glad to see our uni fees are paying off finally.
Now, in terms of the perfect player count, I really enjoy this game at 2 players. I've also played it solo as well, where I control 2 or 3 different monsters, and I just love the very varied experience. And with a lot of cooperative games like Pandemic, you know, with less players, you're going to be doing more on your turn with your creature. If you've got more players in a game like this, then you're going to be sitting around for a little while before your turn comes around, and whilst your turn comes around, other people are probably going to say, look, you should do this, you should do that, and it does have that alpha player effect as well. I also think with lots of players, it's harder for you to mobilize the monsters around the board. Yes, you could easily all be spread out. Because the boss monster activates at the beginning of every single player's turn, it's going to be hard for you to react on your turn if you're playing at like a 5-player count. And in terms of a future expansion for the game, I'd love to see a house mode where you could kind of have one player plays the boss monster and all the other players plays the regular monsters, and have this kind of 1v all mode, which would really shift the game from just not only being a cooperative game, but to one that could be competitive as well. So before we head to my final verdict, if you really enjoyed my content so far, don't forget to give this video a like and subscribe to my channel. It's totally free, and if you want to see more board game content, head over to my main board game page. There's something for everyone. Now, in terms of my final verdict, I absolutely loved the production value of King of Monster Island. In fact, I loved the cooperative nature. I really enjoyed playing this at the 2-player level just because you didn't have to wait too long for your turn, but also the strategy was there, as well as that opportunity to negotiate with someone about what we should actually do. And I often see myself playing this controlling 2 monsters each, so that you can have that varied player experience. So if you're someone who really loves the King of series, so King of Tokyo and King of New York, then this game for me would be an 8 out of 10, just because it does feel fresh, it feels different, but it definitely feels in a little niche in that King of Tokyo world that hasn't been fulfilled yet. And if you're someone who's just looking to add this game to your collection, it is a really cool cooperative game. If you've got games like The Loop, then you probably don't really need this game. But if you don't have any games like this, then for me, this game would be a 7.5 out of 10. I really enjoyed this game. It's so much fun. And yes, it did take me some time to warm up to the game, but upon my 3rd and 4th plays, I was seeing how you could use the tactics and options presented to you in such different ways. Thanks once again for joining me for another Board Game Sanctuary video. I really appreciate that you've made it this far in the video. Thanks once again for supporting me, and if you are a patron, don't forget to check out your name in the credit roll. Otherwise, this is Danny signing out. Don't forget to enjoy your next game. See ya!